What I have before me is the Swiss Army knife of noise removal tools, and here's why.
Okay, James, now I've spoken to a skater.
And now let's listen without those tools applied.
Okay, James, now I've spoken to a skater.
Thank you to borisfx for sponsoring this video. They make great effects for video editors, but did you know they also specialize in some great noise removal tools? Now, they have a bunch of them. You might need to update them if you already have this package, and if you haven't got it, you're getting a treat. Not only have they done under-the-hood improvements, such as improvements for non-native English languages and female voices as well, the reason it's a Swiss Army knife is because you can have different tools for different audio problems. And we know that one audio problem can be completely different to another, and one-click AI solutions don't always get it right. So let's go through all of the audio clips I've got here and show you some different examples of background noise, audio that you want to clean up, and how Crumple Pop does it really well. So in the first example I played you in the intro, we obviously have stuff going on in the background. There's street noise, traffic, and there's also a bit of clipping. Now, the way we can see this in the waveform, if we look at the original here, you'll see in between these two effects here, we've got background noise going on here, here, and here. In fact, I can play a little bit. There it is. And we've got clipping, as you can see here, here, and here. The person who's recording out on the street didn't quite get their levels correct, and they are indeed going into the red on the levels.
Okay, James, now
right down there, which is obviously not good. Now, all I need to do is enable these two effects, traffic remover and clip remover in this case. I've preset these, and you'll see how they kick in.
Okay, James, now I've spoken to a skater.
Absolutely incredible. And what you'll see in the waveforms here is the original audio, and the little green bits here on traffic remover are the sounds of traffic that are being removed from the audio. And over here, you'll see pink is the original audio on clip remover. And then you've got the little blue spikes, which those are the clips that are being removed. Now we can do more advanced stuff, such as turning the strength down. Let's try that.
Okay, James, now I've spoken to a skater.
And as you hear, as I start to fade that down, the traffic and background noise comes back. It's even clever enough to decipher shouting voices in the background and eliminate them. This is where AI allows for such detailed removal of those unwanted elements. And over here on the clip remover, you'll see that we can actually take it down to 0 dB. And if I switch on my preview window, you'll see that those clips are all reduced nicely. Now, if we had a hard limiter on our audio and the clipping started at -6 dB, we'd turn the knob right down and attack clipping at -6 dB. And as you can see, the waveform has gone from rather clipped at the top to the after view where everything is nicely smoothed out. And the best thing is, these plugins are super easy to set up just by turning a dial to dial them in. You can do more advanced stuff, and let's look at that now. So, of course, traffic and clipping are not the only issues we can have with our audio. We can have general background noise. Audio denoise is great for this. This is something I recorded earlier in my studio on an iPhone. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on my mobile. Lots of background noise, just not sounding good. Now, we could use a one-click AI solution. Audio denoise is actually pretty good at getting general background noise and removing it. So if I go in to Crumple Pop Complete, grab audio denoise, you'll see it loads up on default settings, and hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording. Background still there a little bit. Crank it up to 100%. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on... Now, you'll notice how the background noise is completely eliminated by this plugin. It's absolutely insane. It really is one dial, but the reason it's a Swiss Army knife is you can use the different plugins for different problems. Now, obviously, the more I increase the strength, the more issues there may be with artifacts or loss of fidelity in your audio. But not to worry, because if you know that it's happening in low, mid, or high range frequencies of your audio, the particular problem, you can increase those and decrease the others. So let's take high down and play back. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on my mobile inside my... Okay, so no difference there. So I'm going to remove the high. Let's try mid. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on... And there's most of my issue in the mid range. Let's move the low down. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on my mobile inside my studio. Now, while the acute... Okay, so most of the background noise in this particular clip is happening in the mid-range, but there's also a little bit of rumble in the low, so I'm leaving that at 64 and the mid right up at 100. I've rolled the high audio denoise completely off because there is no noise up in the high end, and that preserves the high-end frequencies of my voice. Really easy to set. Really easy to dial in, and we can, of course, back off the strength a little to retain more frequencies in the voice. Let's try that now. Hello, this is Mike, and I'm recording on my mobile inside my studio. And there we go. At about 87%, we can see the output here. Hello, this is Mike. Which is, of course, how loud it goes on the output, so we can turn it down if we like. But usually we want to get our audio out nice and relatively loud, so 0 dB is a good space for that. And the level over here, this is the input level going into the plugin before audio denoise is applied. So a pretty good plugin that works really well, but that's not it. We do have different issues. Now, echo is completely different to background noise. Echo, otherwise known as reverb, is that room noise that happens when you're in a large room and everything you say bounces off the walls. There's no sound treatment. It kind of sounds a bit like this.
There's literally so much that we really get into in this episode.
So as you'll hear, there's not that much echo there, but it's definitely in a room with a low amount of sound treatment. So we can fix that in just a few clicks by adding into our effects rack here from Crumple Pop Complete. We'll do Echo Remover. And on the default settings, I think this will work quite well. Let's try it.
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode. Thanks for joining us today. Let's dive in with Brandon James Duncan.
Incredible. And let's switch it off.
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode.
And then back on.
There is literally so much that we really get into.
And you can see the echo reduction going on with the white specks here in the waveform and the original audio here in orange. Incredible. I can, of course, play with dryness, body, and tone just to dial this in if I want. So let's try.
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode.
You hear as I crank the dryness up, it's decreasing the fidelity of his voice. So we won't go too high with that.
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode.
That makes him sound really dry and close to the mic and studio quality. Got body?
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode.
Not much is happening there with his particular voice with body, so I'll leave that on the default.
There is literally so much that we really get into in this episode. Thanks for...
And again, tone, not making much of a difference, so again, default. And of course, we can always set this back to default whenever we like by going up into our presets and just clicking default, and it'll get all the settings exactly as you like. And if you're happy with this, you can actually apply the effects rack here in Audition and get that echo removal applied to your audio and ready to use. It's absolutely fantastic and so easy. Another common problem we face, particularly as podcasters and content creators on YouTube with multiple microphones, lots and lots of guests in the studio, is one person will undoubtedly speak louder, one person will speak quieter, some microphones are boosted, some microphones are low, and it's a complete nightmare. And then what makes it worse is someone will laugh in the middle of a podcast and peak the levels up really high. This really annoys me, and as an audio editor and also as a podcast producer, I've come across this so many times, and people have asked me, how do you solve this? And I'm like, well, go through manually and just do envelopes in the multitrack and turn things down. And really, it's not an ideal solution because you're sitting there as an editor for ages trying to fix little issues. Let me show you how Level Matic works. This is insane and such a time saver, particularly for editors of content. So you'll see here, we've got some audio here.
I guess here's a cheeky question. Do you wish...
Okay, so our host is speaking between about -15, -12, sometimes peaking up near -6, but generally -15 and -12 dB. And then we've got a bit of a laugh going on.
10 years down the line.
That's peaking right up at -2 dB. And then we've got over here...
I guess the answer is yes and no.
A guest who is pretty much solid at -6 dB. So levels all over the place, an editor's nightmare, particularly if there's an hour-long piece of audio to edit there. But Level Matic is going to fix this for us. And I tell you what, this is one of the plugins that when I applied it the first time, my eyes popped out and I went, wow! This is incredible. So let's try it out on the audio. We'll go into our Crumple Pop Complete collection over here, and we'll look for Level Matic. Now, you'll see it's a default setting at 80%. Now, this is going to be more powerful if I actually move Level Matic over to the left and I switch on preview mode here. So you can see already before we've got levels all over the place, and after at strength of 80%, and there really is just one dial here, we've got audio at a consistent volume. Now, by default, the target output is at -12. If I want to make this louder, maybe I want to pull it right the way up to -3 dB, I can do so. It's going to make my target output loud, and you can see how consistent those levels are without being overly compressed, because usually we just whack a compressor on something like this, so it would really compress the laughter and the loud bits, and then the quiet bits would still have a lot of range in the audio waveform. Let's listen to the result.
I guess here's a cheeky question. Do you wish you'd done something else?
Look at all the reductions.
Several, 10 years down the line, you're going, gosh, I wish I'd just gone for T-shirts or something.
I guess the answer is yes and no. Yes, because...
So that's incredible. What a great listening experience that will be for the podcast listener, that everything is at consistent volume, no turning up or turning down or getting almost deafened when people are laughing, coughing, or doing other shouty, screamy stuff on the mic. Just to remind us, let's switch this off now and listen to it before Level Matic.
I guess here's a cheeky question. Do you wish you'd done something else? Several, 10 years down the line.
And suddenly it gets much louder when they are laughing there on the microphone. So Level Matic at strength of 80% worked pretty well. Now, of course, if we want to retain some of the dynamic range, we can back this off a bit, and you'll see how it still does a bit of leveling. It's doing a bit of leveling. This section in particular has got a lot louder, but most of it has been leveled out quite nicely by Level Matic. So no problems now forever into the future with the audio levels of your podcast, of your YouTube content, of something you're creating, because Level Matic will sort it out for you, and it's brilliant. I'm going to be using this in my audio production workflow loads. How about using pop remover? Now, we all know when we don't have a pop filter or a windshield over our microphone, we can get those plosives, those P sounds when we say pop or B or K or anything like that, or T, sometimes pops the diaphragm of the microphone and sounds pretty unpleasant. Let's listen to an example.
All the pictures that you've taken, all of the product descriptions.
Okay, switching off preview mode, focusing on this waveform.
All the pictures that you've taken, all of the product descriptions.
Okay, this one is a really bad P.
And all of the product descriptions.
So let's go ahead into our Swiss Army knife again, and we'll go into Crumple Pop Complete, and we will pull out the pop remover. Now let's have a play with this. First of all, just going to leave it as is.
And all of the product descriptions.
Wow. And can you see how it's picked out there in pink, just the P? So there's no other reduction happening to any of the other audio, just that P.
And all of the product descriptions.
And let's check it picks up the first P as well.
All the pictures that you've taken, all of the product descriptions.
And there are our two Ps, one there and one there, nicely reduced. Let's really focus on this one.
The product.
And then switch it off.
The product.
And then on.
The product.
And then move the strength up.
The product.
Right up.
The product.
And that's incredible. Let's go from the start.
All the pictures that you've taken, all of the product descriptions.
And then, of course, we can, here take off the low. So if we take the low right the way down, like so,
the product is,
we're introducing that plosive back.
The product description.
And then it's completely gone. Now we can probably afford to roll off high.
The product description.
Which we can, and mid.
The product description.
And we can just keep low, because generally plosives happen down in the low frequencies. So what this is doing is setting up pop remover optimally. And I might even roll this down a bit because we don't need it so high. So there's a bit of popping there.
The product description.
On a strength of 93%, perfect. We can then go ahead and apply that pop remover complete to our audio, and all the pops have gone in one click. Now, the next plugin is called Rustle Remover. I'm a little bit concerned that it's called Rustle Remover. I quite like the rustle, in my name that is, but we're talking about Rustle of lavalier microphones, and I recorded this earlier on a lavalier mic. This is me talking on a lavalier, a bit of rustling going on. Now, first of all, you'll hear there's some awful background noise that hopefully we can fix up, but also you'll notice that there is a bit of, this is me talking on a lavalier. There it is, on a lavalier.
You want a lavalier?
So it's that awful thing when you have a lavalier mic attached to yourself or a guest and their clothing moves around and you get that kind of rustly sound. So let's try and eliminate both problems. First of all, let's go for the Swiss Army knife audio denoise here. And we can crank that up. Audio completely gone. Crazy.
This is me talking on a lavalier, a bit of...
And it's even done really well.
This is me talking on a lavalier.
With removing the rustle. So we could just use audio denoise, but if we wanted to focus, let's get rid of audio denoise just on the rustle. We can actually go in here to Crumple Pop and we can pull in the Rustle Remover. And here, now, have a listen and watch the audio processing here.
This is me talking on a lavalier, a bit of... This is me talking on a lavalier.
And it's pretty much gone.
This is me talking on a lavalier.
Let's remind ourselves where that rustle sound was.
Talking on a lavalier.
There it is.
Talking on a lavalier. Talking on a lavalier.
Okay, and now let's switch it back on.
Talking on a lavalier. Talking on a lavalier.
Gone. So let's remove the high, and here probably the rustle will be up in the high end frequencies.
Talking on a lavalier. Talking on a lavalier.
There it is.
Talking on a lavalier. Talking on a lavalier. Talking on a lavalier.
You can hear that. So we'll switch the high on, maybe pull the mid off.
Talking on a lavalier.
Yeah, a little bit of rustle happening there. What about the low end?
You want a lavalier, a bit of rustling going on with...
Not much in the low end, so we can afford to reduce that. Now...
This is me talking on a lavalier.
And then with it off...
This is me talking on a lavalier, a bit...
Rustle is reintroduced. So the Rustle Remover is incredible, even if it is erasing my surname in one sense. It's actually erasing that annoying clothes brushing and rubbing effect that you often get with lavalier microphones. And finally, let's take a look at Wind Remover. Again, incredible stuff. Why use a one-click AI tool when you can really dial in with a Swiss Army knife? And this is what this does. So let's play this audio.
All right. Hi, Mike. This is a grand tour of...
and there we have that wind.
Grand tour of...
You can hear it.
Grand tour.
Rumbling away there. And if I switch on spectral frequency display, you might even see some of the wind appearing down here in the low end. So... let's go ahead and just put on that Swiss Army knife. Let's go and put in that Wind Remover. Really easy to do so. Crumple Pop, Wind Remover, and we'll leave it probably on default settings.
This is a grand tour of our garden.
Just a tiny bit there, so let's crank the strength up again.
This is a grand tour of...
and I can't hear it at all. So remind us off.
This is a grand tour of...
there's the wind on.
This is a grand tour of...
so no longer do you need to worry about having dead cats or big socks on your microphones when recording, because Wind Remover will just take it out. Let's look at a preview here, and I think it's going to be most interesting if we switch on the spectral frequency. You can actually see if I zoom in closely, there is the wind noise right down there, but there it's gone in the after. Now, of course, again, we can introduce high-end back.
This is a grand tour of...
and you'll actually hear when I introduce some of the high-end back, we get more of the crisp high-end frequencies of Isabella's voice there in the example clip, but still we have that wind removed. So there you go. Crumple Pop complete. Just got an amazing update from borisfx. Thank you to borisfx for sponsoring this video, allowing me to bring you amazing content and tell you about these game-changing features from the noise reduction plugins they've got. Every issue you could imagine having can be solved here with an updated algorithm to target specifically other languages and female voices. This really is a good solution. And while one-click AI solutions are great and easy fixes, it's kind of like whacking down with a mallet on your background noise. And this one is much more refined. With Crumple Pop, you can really dial in. You can say, what is the problem I've got here? And you can fix it. It works in all of your well-known audio and video editors in the Adobe ecosystem that I'm in. You can use these inside Adobe Audition, but you can just as well use them in Adobe Premiere Pro. You can use them in Final Cut, DaVinci, and so on. Fantastic stuff. Crumple Pop, absolutely amazing. Go and test it out for yourself. Link in the description, and let me know how you get on in the comments to this video.